Four major sponsors have now dropped 12-time Olympic medalist Ryan Lochte. This all comes just days after he apologized for, as he put it, exaggerating a story about being robbed while in Rio. Speedo was the first to cut ties with the swimmer yesterday, followed by Ralph Lauren, then mattress company Airweave, and later skincare firm Syneron Candela. CBS News financial contributor Melody hops in here to discuss what this all means for the athlete. Melody, perhaps a not so surprising afternoon for Ryan Lochte. It almost seemed as though Speedo sort of drew the short straw. We'll go first, and within minutes, right, they had all jumped off the ship. What did you make of the very swift retreat beaten by his sponsors yesterday?
Not surprising at all. Really, when you think about it, they care a lot about their brands. They're not going to tarnish their brands and allow an individual to do that. The story is just not a good story. They have a morals clause in their contract to say that if you do anything that is not in keeping with the standards and values that we have as a business, we're out. And that's exactly what they did.
It's interesting. There's the real politic here is, of course, Ryan Lochte's a 32-year-old swimmer. He's 4 years away from the next potential impact he could make on the national stage, and it would be minimal considering his age. We saw Michael Phelps bong to his lips, but he still had many, many medals to win. We've seen in other sports, athletes like Ray Lewis and Kobe Bryant return from very serious dealings in courts. It seems because they still had a lot more winning to do.
I think that's one way you can go. I think the situation is a little bit different. I think a lot of this has to do not with the winning to do, but the age and what your expectation is from someone at this age. This is not an indiscretion of youth. This is a 32-year-old man. Right. This is not a frat boy, you know, in college who's made a mistake. And I think that's where the story really gets tough for him. It wasn't localized. This wasn't like it was in the paper in Toledo, Ohio. This was an international incident when all eyes were on this part of the world. So I think that there's a bit more to this story, and I'm not saying any of the other scenarios that you laid out didn't have some degrees of real significance, but I think the other thing is how he handled it. Yeah. So in this, you know, when you look at Phelps, within 24 hours, he was 24 years old. He acknowledged making a mistake, asking for forgiveness. This was a 4-day story where nothing was said, then the story changed 3 times. I mean, there's just a lot of differences here.
What do you make when protecting your sponsorships really is your job as much as anything, especially for an Olympic athlete? Once you're done, it's let's make sure I'm living a life that my sponsors are happy with. What do you make essentially then of what seemed a decided lack of crisis management for the first 3+ days of this?
Well, he said in the interview that he did that he was advised not to speak until his teammates were out of Brazil. That is the story that he is using of why he didn't say anything. And I think your point is well taken. He makes about $1 million a year in sponsorships. Now, for him, that's significant money, especially if you're going to spend the next 4 years in the pool chasing Tokyo. And while that number relative to a lot of athletes that we hear about is small, LeBron is making $50+ million a year. It's still significant to him. I'm not sure you could have crisis managed this any better because the story is so bad.
4 years ago, he was a bit of a breakout star, had a reality show that to a degree came and went, but certainly was an amenable presence, let's say. 4 years from now, let's say there's a little speed left in the arms and the legs. He's back in the pool. Does he get touched? Can he go away long enough during the break between Olympiads to be sponsorable again?
So clearly anything is possible. Yeah. You know, you saw a significant event with Tiger Woods. Nike never dropped him. And then he got different sponsors. A bunch of sponsors dropped him and different sponsors came to him. Americans love comeback stories, clearly. I asked a couple of companies yesterday just to get a sense, do you see this as a person that you would go back to or consider? And the answers that I got, or consider, these weren't companies that had previously sponsored him, they said we wouldn't touch it. So I think, you know, we have to see how this all plays out in the court of public opinion. It doesn't look good sitting here today, but again, anything's possible.
Yeah, the court has at least its initial ruling Not good for
No,
Ryan Lochte.
no.
Great to see you, Melody.
Great to see you too.
Thanks for being here.